All right, so they're panicking. Corporate media and pundits are baffled, shocked, and chagrined by the unexpected support among black voters. That's right. Corporate media is surprised that black voters would consider voting for Trump, just like how also recent showing is that black voters are leaving Biden over Trump. They're leaving Biden for RFK Jr. And I know I have my criticism. We all have our criticism of all these candidates, but the Democrats are losing their coalition. So first, let's start off with their big epic meltdown video. This was, of course, on CNN, a news source that we all can trust. So let's go ahead and play this video for all of you to see. Shout out again to Case Study QB. Let's play it.
You just heard Harry Enton with shock and surprise on his face as he was looking at the numbers. And I want to go to you first, Bakari. What explains this? Biden, 70%, Trump in 2024, 21% of voters, a very high number. And then when you look at 50 and under, the numbers are dramatically different for any Democratic president that we have ever seen. These numbers very high for a Republican candidate. What explains that, you think?
Poor polling. I mean, if you want to be honest about it, if Donald Trump gets those numbers, then I truly believe that I can sell Harry this bridge in Brooklyn. I mean, that's just not happening. I think that people have to just level set a little bit, relax a little bit, stop hyperventilating. Donald Trump is not going to get 20% of the black vote. He's simply not. Black voters traditionally, as we go throughout this process, as you get to Labor Day, et cetera, a lot of black voters do come home to the Democratic Party. There are warning lights. I said it from the past 3 or 4 months about turnout. But I think that Harry and everyone else who are looking at these polls analyze this race incorrectly all the time. And the reason they analyze this race incorrectly is because Donald Trump isn't the biggest threat to Joe Biden. The biggest threat to Joe Biden is black voters staying at home. Black voters aren't going to all of a sudden, under the age of 50 or however old they are, because he gets, 4 or 5 unnamed rappers from Detroit or 4 or 5 unnamed rappers from the Bronx to support him. They're not going to all of a sudden, flock to Donald Trump. There is a threat, however, black voters simply will stay at home because they feel sometimes like those policies passed in Washington, D.C. haven't necessarily touched their pockets. So I don't have the same shock and awe. I just think here we are in the middle of summer and things will stabilize and get back to normal.
Now, this is what you call someone who's trying to make a defense for the Democrats. Do you want to know why not only black voters aren't showing up, but all voters are not showing up? Is because this administration has never followed through with any of their promises. Their promises to help the people. Their promises to make sure our lives would be better. Because, oh no, goodness gracious, Trump was just so terrible. Trump was just a very, 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 very bad man. He was no different than any other president, okay? Nothing earth-shatteringly shocking. He wasn't Hitler 2.0. We've actually had presidents sign the genocidal orders to exterminate, Native American tribes, all right? Trump wasn't one of them. Oh, Trump is just like any other politician, okay, folks? Take that any which way you want. But maybe, I don't know, maybe CNN, if you decide to get your heads out of your wazoos, you would see clearly that, I don't know, maybe the Democratic Party purposely abused its supporters, made them feel guilty, or threatened them and said, if you don't vote for us, those bad Republicans will make your life miserable. Both parties are making our lives miserable, but it's abundantly clear with all these failed attempts by the Democrats to try and go after Donald Trump, or use that, all these attempts for the Democrats to derail third parties and independents, no one's not buying their BS anymore. The Democratic Party is that abusive partner, just like the Republican Party, okay? They're both the same. But the Democrats put on this friendly neoliberal mask saying, oh, I care about you. I love you. I respect you. And then as soon as they get involved in your lives, they start abusing you, cheating on you, taking your money, crashing your car. And then as soon as you kick them out, they come back on their knees saying, I'm a changed person. Love me again. I took you for granted. Please don't forsake me. No one's buying it. Democrats, I've been following your primary, the voter turnout. And I've had people on my social media send me the voter turnout in their state. Comparison to 2016 and in 2020 together, 2024 has been a miserable turnout for the Democratic primary.
As they always do.
But the numbers are the numbers, Bakari. I mean, are you saying just don't believe the polls, or are you saying you don't think these polls will be representative of the population once voting begins in November?
Oh, both. I think I think what we've seen over the past 8 years is pretty bad polling. And then I think what you've seen consistently since that time is individuals have a very difficult time acknowledging that we've had bad polling, and then the polling continuously gets worse. And so I think that's one of the issues that we have. But I mean, the Biden campaign they do have issues with African-American voters in terms of getting them to turn out to vote. That is a fact. That I was with Kamala Harris last week in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of the things she was trying to do was ensure that she got Black voters to the polls, particularly younger Black.
Kamala Harris is not going to get anyone to the freaking polls. Was that the best you got, sir? Sir, Kamala the Cop Harris, who cackled and laughed like a hyena as she threatened children and their families. If the kids, let's say, miss a day of school or they skip a day of school, their parent might go to jail. Breaking up a family. Causing more pain and suffering. Oh, no, the children have to go into the foster care. Oh, wait. By the way, folks, there was a point, when Kamala, had somebody on death row, her team refused to look at the evidence showing that he was innocent. I don't want to shock you guys, but the word death row is like final, finite. It's not called life row, death row, where it's like, that's it, lights go out, never coming back. Oh, wait, how can we forget also? In California, there's a lot of fires. I know, shocking, fires in California. I never knew that. But apparently, a lot of those prisoners, who, trying to redeem themselves, looking for work, guess what? They couldn't become firefighters. Guess who was one of the people roadblocking that? Oh, yeah, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is, that's definitely later to do it, to bring in the Black vote. She's got her finger on the pulse. So every single Black person in America, Kamala's your number one gal. I'm willing to bet a majority of people, Black people, are going to say, no. And what's funny? What's really funny? During the early days of the 2020 Democratic primary, I think it was 2019, Kamala Harris made her announcement on Martin Luther King Day, big old bang, and then ended in a fizzle, a fart in the wind. I like how I pause this too. Like they're all staring at me like, how dare you, sir, talk down to us, you awful, awful man.
Black voters. So they are working towards that. But Donald Trump's not getting 20% of the Black vote. I can sit here and say that as a fact today.
I know you have a different opinion, just opinion, as your head is madly shaking. What are your thoughts on these numbers? And you've got Bakari and Joe Biden himself has sort of said he doesn't believe the polls, although it was on the economy. Does Donald Trump get 20% of the vote?
Look, I actually find myself agreeing a lot with some of the assessments by my friend Bakari. Look, I think Democrats are in many ways trying to either poo-poo the numbers or they're
trying to poo-poo. How dare you use that language on CNN? This is a respectable news network.
Trying to scare people into changing the numbers. The reality is a Republican Party that gets 20% of the Black vote is a Republican Party that stops losing elections. And the notion that Democrats would no longer enjoy monolithic support from the Black community is something that terrifies Democrats up and down the ballot. So, yes, I understand why they are trying to push back against the narrative, but it comes at their own peril because for decades, my entire life, they have told us every 4 years we're not allowed to talk about the fact that Black schools are failing Black families, that we have a three-strand cord of despair from that failure in those schools that in many ways is driving the poverty, which leads to the criminal element. There is no Biden plan to make American communities more safe. There is no Biden plan to give broader access to school choice. These are issues that Black families are tired of having placed on the back burner. And so whether it's Joe Biden spending $25 million to try to push a Bidenomics ad buy that ended up with them getting rid of the term Bidenomics, or him now trying to make this push on character, saying that I am the character candidate and President Trump is not, Black people, I think, writ large, are beginning to wake up to the reality.
I want to pause here. Here's a reality. And I don't care what color you are, who you worship, who you're going to vote for, what generation you're part of. Joe Biden is not an activist or an organizer. Joe Biden didn't care about the social issues, especially during the civil rights movement. If you're in shock, go ahead and Google it yourself, because we've covered it on the show for Hard Lens Media, especially during the 2020 primary. Joe Biden was against busing and desegregation. Joe Biden didn't want his white kids to be with black kids. Joe Biden was against every aspect of the civil rights movement. Joe Biden was against a woman's right to choose. Okay? And of course, like a politician, a liar, he adapts like a parasite, like a virus with the times. And then all of a sudden people forget. People forget. It's like, oh, that's Joe Biden. He's always been in the Senate. Oh, that's Joe Biden. He's always been a Democrat. Then I guess he has to care about the social issues. No! Go use the Wayback Machine. Go back in time, my lovelies. Joe Biden isn't this progressive heavyweight champion, especially, listen, conservatives, libertarians, Trumpers. Listen. Joe Biden is a corporatist neoliberal. There's nothing progressive about the man, okay? And to this everlasting shame, somehow that man gets connected to us because guess what? We've had sellouts like AOC or Bernie the Nutless Wonder, okay? Joe Biden doesn't care about black issues. Joe Biden doesn't care about Latino issues. Hell, Joe Biden doesn't care about anybody at all, period. He only cares about lining up his pockets, but he's so senile now, he's doing D-Day in his pants. A dump day every single day to honor June 6th. That's our president. Well, that's not our president. That's not my president. But liberals, that's your dog. And your dog doesn't have a squeaky clean record.
That we cannot continue to engage in politics the same way. That does not mean that they're going to all of a sudden, like lemmings, start voting for Republicans, but it does mean that there are a larger number of black voters who are willing to hold their vote into Bakari's count. Maybe they're not voting for Joe Biden, but they might not be willing to come out in the rain or on any day to continue to support a party that places their needs at the back burner.
I want to ask you how you think black voters get over some of the things that Donald Trump has said over the years.
Donald Trump has said nothing new. No. I mean that. Donald Trump has said nothing new. We've all run into a Donald Trump in our lifetime. We have. He's not that special. It's just the media chose to make him that special. And Donald Trump has made a career. I'll say this. He knows how to manipulate media, radio, television, newspaper, and the internet. That's a master craft. I mean, who hasn't Donald Trump insulted or made fun of? Who? A bird goes tweet and an owl goes, who? Hey, how do voters in general get over the fact that Democrats have been lying to them for years, that we had a progressive movement, an independent movement under Bernie Sanders, and that's how we got swindled? How do we get over that? How do we break away from that? How do we break away from these, people that want to hurt us like Bernie or AOC to tell us that we got to support this neoliberal, senile old goat, Joe Biden, to be our nominee? And no, I don't think so. Wake up, break away from the Democratic Party. And yes, even break away from the Republican Party. You don't owe either of these two parties a vote. But I remember saying this in 2020. Democrats, there's a very good chance Trump's going to run again. And I was proven correct. Daniel said the same thing too on the show. We all said it. Everybody in independent media said it. And here we are. Trump's running again. Biden's losing because I remember saying this too. The Democrats had an opportunity to really do some strong, powerful legislation to improve the lives of the American people. And what did we get? More chaos. Nothing fundamentally changed. It got progressively worse.
Which are just they're racist. Let me go to some of the things that he said over the years.
The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population.
He's talking about his mugshot. Okay.
Incredible. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. African Americans are getting slaughtered. Hispanic Americans are getting slaughtered. And these millions and millions of people that are coming into our country, it makes me sad because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the
least racist person here in comparison to a white liberal Most of my friends are black. I'm one of the good ones. Who's more authentic? Some random liberal saying, oh, yeah, most of my friends are black. I'm one of the good ones. I support reparations. We got to support the Democrats, but they haven't done anything. We got to support them. Or Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, I'm the least racist person in the room. How can you not look at this election cycle and not laugh? I feel like my wish has been answered. I said, I hope that this election cycle will be the most interesting and most hilarious. And I think I'm getting what I want. But you know the old saying, hey, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it.
Least racist person in this room.
He said a lot of different things that really were upsetting to.
Did anyone find anything that Trump said upsetting? I mean, being serious. Type 1 for yes, Kit. My feelings are hurt and you're making light of this situation. And I am being serious, you awful man. Why are you laughing? The fate of our country's at stake. Type 2, man, hell yeah, I'm laughing, dude. The ship's sinking. We're going to have a fun time. See you at the bottom of the ocean.
To black folks and white folks, frankly. How do you get over that? How does someone get over that?
I'll just say this. We're not in a election where you're saying this is the person who's perfect on race versus this is the person who's terrible on race. I think that we like to whitewash away the racial gaffes of the candidates when we believe in the underlying policies of that candidate. So whether it's Joe Biden talking about racial jungles 30 years ago and Kamala Harris having to remind people that that little girl on that bus you didn't want us on was me.
No, that was a lie. Yo, hey, CNN. Do. Fact check right now. Hold on. In fact, you know what? I want to pull up a graphic because I can't. Because I want to be a jackass right now. I want to be a real mean person. Breaking news. CNN jackass decides to make himself look like a jackass for talking about something that we've already pretty much debunked. No, Kamala. No. Kamala being that little girl trying to get on the bus. No, she wasn't. Plus, on top of that, don't you all remember her saying it was a debate? In case you missed it, here it is. Go ahead. Take it away, Mr. CNN pundit.
On race versus this is the person who's terrible on race. I think that we like to whitewash away the racial gaffes of the candidates when we believe in the underlying policies of that candidate. So whether it's Joe Biden talking about racial jungles 30 years ago and Kamala Harris having to remind people that that little girl on that bus you didn't want us on was me, or whether it's Joe Biden as recent as 2 years ago reminiscing about the good times we used to hang out in the cafeteria with all of those avowed racists in the United States.
Sometimes, you got to expect and just be reminded about who people truly are. You think Joe Biden is now this open-minded progressive person? No, he's a senile little goat, but even in his prime, you think he really was embracive of the civil rights movement? You think he was happy? No. Joe Biden's from another time. Different time altogether. And I'm willing to bet, personally, when he was still in his prime, he didn't really like the changes, but he played along because it's voting and lying to people. That's what politicians do. They lie. This is the same Joe Biden after when the Democrats were able to sheep herd enough people into their party, where he was able to manipulate them and still remain in power, who then would eventually prostitute himself to corporations. Don't forget the same Joe Biden wrote the crime bill. I don't know why we have the most incarcerated population in the world. You could thank Joe Biden.
Senate. Yes, there are plenty of comments that we can talk about from these presidents. There are people on the left who I think will probably take more issue with the racial legacy of Donald Trump. But most people, I think, are saying it is a pox on both houses. If you are someone who subscribes to the notion that racism is the original sin of this country, it is certainly not confined to either side of the political aisle. And that type of, I think, myopic approach to dealing with race is why we have had such a difficult time fixing the issue of race. And I think it's why you see people now, in spite of all the things Democrats are talking about, continuing to go back to that 2016 playbook about the Central Park Five. It is not working. The numbers are eroding before our very eyes, and Democrats can ignore them at their own peril.
By the way, this is the same Joe Biden who said, if you don't vote for me, and you ain't black. Remember he said that? So I guess maybe the process still remains the same even after 2020 and 2024. If black people don't vote for Joe Biden, then I guess they ain't black. Right? Democrats, you live in your own reality. I want to pull up this other video here, again from CNN. I know. I'm sorry to put you guys through this. It's from CNN. There's only so much I could take of that segment here. But let's play this video here where, again, the numbers game. Biden, it's not looking cash money for you, honey.
From Donald Trump to pick up support among black voters in historically Democratic voting bloc. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton is with us. So where does the race stand among African-American voters right now?
Yeah, I keep looking for this to change, to go back to a historical norm. And it simply put has not yet. So this is the margin, or Biden and Trump among black voters, compare where we were at this point in 2020, compare where we are now. You know, at this point, look at this. In 2020, Joe Biden was getting 86% of the African-American vote. Look at where it is now. It's 70%. That's a 16-point drop, John. And more than that, it's not just that Joe Biden is losing ground. It's that Donald Trump is gaining ground. You go from 7%, single digits at this point in 2020, to now 21%. And again, John,
Don't show these numbers to liberals. If you have a liberal friend, if you love them, don't show it to them. They're going to cry and panic. Then they're not going to know what to do, and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be very sad, very sad. You'll see people act like emotionally stunted children.
I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, and I don't see it yet in the polling. If anything, right now, we're careening towards a historic performance for a Republican presidential candidate, the likes of which we have not seen in 6 decades.
And when you dig into this number here, what is the makeup of that number?
This is where we get very interesting. So I decided to dive deeper into the crosstabs, figure out where is it that Joe Biden is truly struggling among black voters. All right. So this is black voters, Biden versus Trump margin. Look at black voters age 50 and older, and you'll see, look, Joe Biden was leading amongst this group at this point by 83 points back in 2020. Now it's 74 points. So yeah, a slight decline in that margin, but nothing out of this world. Look at black voters under the age of 50. Holy cow, folks. Holy cow. Look at this. Joe Biden was up by 80 points among this group back at this point in 2020. Look at where that margin has careened down towards. It's now just, get this, 37 points. That lead has dropped by more than half, Mr. Berman.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie. How do you expect people to react in an economic depression? I said that the number one issue is going to be the economy. I know right now everything's being overshadowed by Trump and his trials and woogie boogie boogie. It's the orange man. I don't care about Donald Trump. I don't care. I'm not surprised he's running again. But Democrats, you act like I love you, but you're not serious people. Logan Roy, I'm using that quote, stealing it from here on out. I love you, liberals, but you're not serious people. Simple as that. Great quote. Really good quote. If you haven't seen Succession, watch it. It's a good show. Really good show. But these numbers are pathetic, Democrats. These are sad numbers from sad people. Really sad. And I, for one, have to say, if you're not understanding how people are suffering during this economy, a lot of people, especially in marginalized communities, economically struggling communities, this goes for all over this country. People are going to go to somebody else who might make their life better. I'm not saying things will improve under Trump because I don't expect that. But the Biden administration, the ship is sinking. And it is your fault.
Oh, I just never seen anything like this. I'm like speechless, because you always look at history and you go, okay, this is a historic moment. If this polling is anywhere near correct, we are looking at a historic moment right now where black voters under the age of 50, which have historically been such a big part of the Democratic coalition, are leaving it in droves.
That is a huge drop over a 4-year period, at least right now. All right, what's the impact of third-party candidacies here? Robert Kennedy Jr.
Yeah, you know.
Now, here's where third parties come in. RFK Jr. is probably going to be the most prominent one. I have my criticisms towards RFK Jr. And as I've covered on the show, was due dissidents for the earlier segment. You know, Cornel West, Dr. Jill Stein, Chase Oliver leaves much to be desired, and I don't think they're going to gain a lot of ground. Of all the independent candidates, it's going to be RFK Jr., who in theory could probably siphon and get more votes or earn more votes, by this election cycle as things continue on towards November.
So, all right. So obviously we have third-party candidates this year with the two major party candidates being so disliked. All right. So this is black voters, Biden versus Trump in the battleground states. This was according to a poll last month from the New York Times, Siena College. Again, look, looks very similar to what we see nationally, right? Joe Biden at 63, a very poor position for a Democratic candidate. Donald Trump at 23%. If we add Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to this, look where Joe Biden drops to. Less than half the vote among black voters, less than half the vote among black voters in the battleground states. Donald Trump drops as well to 14%, so not quite nearly as historic. But look at this, RFK with 11%. You basically have a legitimate sort of three-way race here. Yeah, Joe Biden well ahead, but with less than 50% of the vote. John, I never thought I would see something like this among black voters.
I saw it coming. Eventually, people who looked towards third parties and independents. Now, I feel like this election cycle, there's a lot that third parties and independents, like maybe more serious people, could have achieved. If you were running on a real strong third-party campaign, an independent campaign, you should have been starting in 2020. Hell, dare I say it, the Greens really crapped the bed. They should have been laying their infrastructure down for 2016 onwards. But hey, whatever. But I saw this coming, where eventually voters of all colors and creed, of religion and political points of view would be tired of the two-party system. I saw this coming, CNN. Come on, CNN, be better. So what can we take away from this? The numbers don't lie. Even here in Chicago, I have been seeing such a massive pushback against the Democratic machine. Now, to be clear here, just so there's no confusion, voter turnout for Chicago city elections have been very abysmal. Okay, voter turnout, the numbers are not where they should be. Okay, so you got a vast majority of Chicagoans who just don't vote. But this time around, you're seeing a surge of action in politics that I've never seen before in this city. And my family's been living here for generations. For generations, the Democratic machine has had its stranglehold on Chicago politics, on all of the Chicago communities. And I am seeing Chicagoans in a blue city, in a neoliberal city, not a communist utopia or socialist or anything of that nature. No, in a neoliberal city, finally stand on their own two legs and give a middle finger to the Democratic establishment. And I'm seeing everyone have a disdain for the convention that's going to be coming here. People protesting the convention. And I've also been seeing a rise of, yes, even Trump supporters in Black and Latino communities. Not earth-shattering numbers, but enough to where somebody should raise an eyebrow and say, well, gee, why is this happening? There's a growing distrust and disdain and resentment towards the Democratic Party. I know what to expect from the Republican Party. I know the same people donate to the Democratic Party, donate to the Republican Party. But the numbers don't lie. The emotions in this country should not be overlooked. When you constantly get spit on, when you constantly get abused, it is in your own social right to say no more. So black voters leaving the Democratic Party comes as no shock. But hey, CNN, did you know that Latino voters are leaving the Democratic Party? White people are leaving the Democratic Party. Asian people are leaving the Democratic Party. The LGBTQ community is leaving the Democratic Party. Women are leaving the Democratic Party. And why? Why are all these people leaving the Democrats? Because they've been lied to enough and they're tired. It's time for something new. And Democrats, you did this to yourselves. Make me care. And before any liberal says, but Trump. I don't care about Donald Trump. I really don't care. You couldn't pay me enough to care. And just as a side note to keep you up at night, I am in this firm belief that there are far more vile, evil people in Washington, D.C., currently serving in Congress, in the Senate, that are far more disgustingly evil than Donald Trump. At least he's up front with his BS. You know all about him. He put it all out there. These other politicians, start digging in deeper and you'll vomit.